If you're the one who keeps everything running, the marriage, the kids, the emotional load, and you're exhausted while your husband pulls further away, this episode is for you. I'm Laura Doyle, and today you'll hear a conversation that stopped me in my tracks. My guest, Evie, is an attorney, a high achiever, and a mother of three, and a woman who did everything and still watched her marriage quietly lose warmth and intimacy. What she discovered was uncomfortable and freeing at the same time. Her husband wasn't withdrawing because he didn't care. He was starving for warmth, respect, and the real Evie, not the capable managing version she thought was holding everything together. In this conversation, Evie takes full accountability, talks honestly about the affair that woke her up, and shares what finally brought ease, connection, and even fun back into her marriage. I'm so grateful Evie was willing to be this honest, and I think you will be too. My guest Evie was devastated to find out her husband was very much in love with another woman. The intimacy skills didn't even seem to work for her, but she stuck with them anyway. And today she knows her husband only wants to love her and their marriage is lovely. She's going to tell us how she did it so you could do it too. Evie, welcome to the Empowered Wife podcast. I'm so excited you are here.
I'm very excited to be here. I'm definitely a fan, and I've got a little fan club of you with my friends. So we call ourselves the Empowered Wife, and we have like a strong arm emoji.
Let's start with what attracted you to your husband? How did you know he was the one?
So we met when we were 17. And I was even asking him the other day, like, how did you know? Because he knew. It wasn't me, it was him who knew. And he's very dynamic and very he's he he's enthusiastic in a way that you just kind of want to go where he's going. And so yeah, I think he had known me for like 5 whole minutes, then he decided like this is it. And I was like, I don't see how I'm ever gonna overcome that. Think he's gonna get his way. I tried. I mean, I did. There were plenty of ups and downs in the 6 years between when we met and when we married. But yeah, it kind of felt obvious to me at the time, like he's gonna get what he wants. So
So he was this powerful force of like, we're going to be together. And you were like, why would I argue with that?
pretty much. I mean, I had lots of arguments with it. I had a I had a particular childhood that made me kind of long for some independence and some freedom. And so he was kind of like the worst news that I could possibly get at 17. Like I was just on the cusp of like all this magical freedom that I thought might be out there for me. And then this guy is like, you're mine. And it just really felt, it was funny because, I mean, I was very young. I was just a girl, but it felt very persuasive. I was like, I really think he's gonna carry the day. And I tried mightily hard to get rid of him. I would break up with him and then cut off all communication because in my mind, I thought I was like giving him a clean break, and he was not into the clean break. He would just be around. Anyhow, finally, this kind of went on for a while. And finally, he was 23 and I was 22, and I was already done with college. He was just finishing. And he gave me an ultimatum. He was like, look, I know it looks like I'm still waiting around for you, but I'm going to get on with my life and I'm going to get married. And I don't care if that's to you or someone else. So I'm not waiting around for you anymore. And I was like, I thought about it for a little bit. And I was like, I'd be really devastated eventually if you married someone else. So, and like by then I'd had a pretty good taste of the magical freedom, and it wasn't quite everything I thought it was going to be. So I was like, okay, fine, we can get married. So we did. So
Yeah.
then we got married, and we have a sad part of our story that happened pretty quickly after we got married. We got married. We moved away from our home state because he was going to go to grad school and I was going to teach. But grad school isn't turning out very well for him. I ended up conceiving our first child at about 6 months in, and I had some good impulses, and I had some really bad impulses too. So, to be clear, I was not a wonderful wife to begin with. I had some very strange idea about what a wife does, and most of it was to be fairly unreasonable, and then he was supposed to put up with that. And I set about my work, with a lot of seriousness. I was quite unreasonable, and I had unreasonable fights with him, and I was very comfortable with conflict. I still am. That's why I'm a litigator. It just didn't bother me, but it bothered him, and I was not sensitive to that at all. We really needed to do something because grad school isn't going to work out for him out there. So he came back to our home state, ostensibly to go to grad school here, but then he found a job and they hired him on the spot. I was going to stay at home with this baby. I had already taken the LSAT, the test to get into law school, but she was due in October, and I just didn't want to start law school and then have a baby like halfway through the semester. So I was going to stay home with her. And I did. And that turned out to be really quite a blessing, because she died when she was 4.5 months old. So we were so young, Laura. He was only 25. I was only 24. And here we've had this whole saga of moving away and having grad school fail and having a baby and then the baby dying. I was just, oh, yeah, it was devastating. And my husband is a tenderhearted, really wonderful person who genuinely wanted to be a father, even at such a young age. He was barely out of boyhood before he was like, I really want to be a dad. And so it was so hard on him. And he had a pretty big response to it. Kind of, at the time, it wouldn't have qualified for like a PTSD diagnosis because there were more stringent things about what constituted a trauma. But these days it would constitute PTSD, and he acted like it too. He fell into a horrible, almost catatonic depression and lots of nightmares. And that is when I went from being an irrational wife who fought with him, because that's what wives do, to a control freak. Because why not, And so well, I mean, there was some necessity in it when I started. Like, poor guy couldn't get out of bed. Like, I was getting him out of bed and pushing him into the shower and then laying out his clothes for him and waiting for him to get to work and then calling to see if he got to work, and his boss was calling me and being like, when do you think he's going to shake this, There isn't a whole lot of support in those days either, because, I mean, she would be 22 now if she had lived. Yeah. So anyhow, it was sad. And he was so sad, and he didn't have very good, and there was nobody, all our friends were young. And we even we went to these support groups, and they were like, you didn't know your kid long enough. You belong in the pregnancy loss group. And we went to the pregnancy loss group, and all of those people had miscarriage. It's just like, it was a mess. Anyhow.
This is not a miscarriage. This is, you had a daughter. And then you didn't.
Grief is grief. So, so very sad. And so, and his job, like, again, this is, you start out the introduction with he was in love with another woman, which he was, but like, this is not a story of unfaithfulness. He was always so faithful. So he kept going to work, even though things were awful for him. And he Then he enrolled in classes and he finished a master's degree, and he just worked and worked. And I got a job, um, more along on the teaching side of things. We got pregnant again as quickly as we could. And so we had our next child, a son who is now almost 20. And uh, I, I was like, I mean, this is no big deal. Like having this baby and working, like I'll just keep working. So then he got to about a year old and he couldn't die of SIDS anymore. So that was like a big celebration. We had like 6 parties for him. And like between the two of us, we were like, this is an he can't die of SIDS anymore party. But that's a little morbid for people. So we called it a first birthday party 6 days.
I get
And
it.
we always had a good sense of humor with each other. We're a little on the macabre side, but and so then we were like, oh, well, we kind of might be creating a monster in this child because we're so excited, like the bar was kind of low, like survive, and we're going to be totally happy with you.
Yeah.
So we were like, let's keep having kids. So we had another one, another boy. And when he was born, I like still wanted to work. And so, um, I hadn't gone to law school, I hadn't gone to law school because our daughter was due in the first semester. And then I hadn't gone to law school because, my goodness, we got kind of waylaid.
Yeah.
So we had that second one, and I'm like, yeah, I better like actually go get a real job, so it's time to go to law school. So, apply for law school, get in, my husband's like thrilled. I got scholarships. It kind of worked out, and he's like, this is so exciting. And he's still working on his stuff. So I start law school and, uh, yeah, it was like a couple months in and he lost his job because this was like 2008, 2009 time, so it was like, wasn't great economic times. And,
Terrible economic times. Yeah.
yeah,
There's
he
worldwide financial crisis. So, yeah.
right.
Yeah.
And we bought a house, at exactly the wrong time. And now he's laid off and I'm in law school. It's like ridiculous. So of course I get pregnant again. I couldn't even tell him. I was just like, oh dear, I can't tell this guy. So like my law school friends knew because I always had really bad pregnancies that I would throw up all the time. And my study buddy was like, you're pregnant, right? That's why you're puking all the time. I was like, yeah, but we're not going to tell Brooke for a little while. So anyhow, I finally, yeah. And so we get through that. And I mean, and we had another daughter. So my youngest is another daughter. It's just amazing. Um, After she was born, then I started having a lot of trouble with my entire hormonal system. And it got really bad. And this caused friction inside of our marriage because um, it made me feel very bad in my pelvic area. And that made physical intimacy very difficult. This came through in 2 big ways in our marriage. And um, I think it's worth stating that my parents played into this in a way. They wanted to do right by me. I can say that with absolute confidence. But we got together so young, and my parents were genuinely concerned you know, about sexual morality, and they went so far as to even talk to him. But they weren't convinced that that he was trustworthy, I think would be the way to state that. And so they put a lot of pressure on me to keep it keep it right, And that put me kind of in the driver's seat so far as our sexuality from the get-go. And and that's turning the relationship up on its head, because if if as you say, the essence of femininity is receptivity. I didn't get to receive in that area at all. Mm. And it was very painful to my husband in that way. So in me, there were two big problems. Like there was, first of all, my ultra comfort with, conflict that was very hard on my husband. And I was completely insensitive to that. Like it didn't, it didn't click for me. Like I just didn't see it. Like to me, having a fight was like, it was just daily, like it's just commonplace, right? But I think he suffered from them, and I didn't. I just went on, It was funny because when you invited me for this, or when Catherine invited me for this, I went back through our correspondence and I was like, yep, see, every time I just justified myself, every apology was with a justification. Every time I shifted it to him thinking, if you would do X, Y, or Z, like I wouldn't do A, B, and C. And I put it in that order for a specific reason because through our breakdown, he was explaining to me, I was reacting to you. Oh, and that really felt unjust because I feel like I was reacting to him. But I have in I have worked very hard through your program and I do see it. I think I was causing the trouble. And I knew at the time even that I was justifying myself because I thought he wasn't being very lovely. So why not? You know? And it was very hard on him. And that was more like, so if the control in physical intimacy was eroding the foundation, this was like, you know, the battering ram
Oh,
at the door.
what kinds of, was it about the kids or
There
chores around
was
the
no
house?
there was no theme. Like there was no theme. I
There's
could fight
nothing.
over anything. I'm a
Okay.
litigator.
Yeah. I relate. I relate to you.
I
Yeah.
mean, I remember a terrible fight that we had over how to fold a cloth diaper, like there was no fight too small.
Yeah. Good.
Um, yeah, no, shameful of me. And
Oh,
and like I said, I knew it was shameful, and I just wouldn't do anything about it. I really, really fault myself for that.
you're so accountable in the way you tell this story. And I just have a sense of like if we went back in time and talked to Evie during these moments, these times when you're not going to your husband for support or you're fighting over how to fold a diaper, it was just the way it was. Like, this is just survival. This isn't, I'm not doing anything extraordinarily wrong. I'm just trying to get through the day and I'm trying to defend myself and make sure yeah, I'm trying to defend myself. Is that fair to say? I mean,
Right, and keep my ground, right?
my ground, not lose any ground. Yeah.
But then when things went really poorly with my body, we got another layer. And that layer was that this was now physically very uncomfortable for me. Um, and and we're years into, our daughter having died and me having started controlling things, he had controlled the finances until our daughter died. And then I controlled the finances after that. Like I made lots of decisions. I kind of caught the vision of like what the two of us could do together, like with the grad school and the careers. And then I just started pushing in that direction. And I mean, those were his goals too, but I just thought of myself as the little engine. And so when my body started having all these troubles, I didn't have a good way of explaining that to him. I was pretty cut off from how I feel anyways. This is excruciatingly painful for me. Like that seems like an easy thing to say, but it wasn't. And when I did figure out that it was excruciatingly painful for me, I started going to providers and it looked like polycystic ovarian syndrome and or endometriosis. It ended up being ANT. Um, but I had had 4 children in fairly quick succession. So I didn't qualify for the diagnosis. And I got told a bunch of fun things, like the surgeon is consulting with me and she's actively hurting me with this invasive examination. And she tells me, if you don't want to have intimacy with your husband, just get divorced. You don't need to make the stuff up. I got multiple psychological evaluation referrals instead of, but in the end, I ended up having a complete hysterectomy and oophorectomy when I was 34 years old because I had I had horrible endometriosis that
Oh,
was all over my pelvic floor, and my ovaries had so many cysts and burst so many times they refused. It was supposed to be a 45-minute surgery. It was 4.5 hours. Like it was just it was pretty bad. And my surgeon came in the next morning and she was like, I don't know how you had kids. She was like, I
wow.
I didn't I didn't think we needed to do this going in with the ovaries. And she's like, but I can't even believe you had children. And so, like
Mm.
that was nice and it was super justifying to what I had been through. But
Validating. Yeah, you were
it
right.
was
There was a reason. You weren't making things up.
right. But it was fully 4 years into that problem before that happened. So that's a long
Ouch.
time to
To be in
not
that
be
much
able to,
pain.
yeah,
Oh,
and to not be able to communicate that, to him. He didn't
so
even mean,
to him,
he
it
didn't
just
even,
you're just not available. You're just never available.
right. I'm just rejecting.
You're just
I'm
okay.
just rejecting him over and over and over and over. He didn't go to any of those appointments with me. I was afraid to take him. Like, what would he think if somebody else gave me a psychological referral or told me to get a divorce? Like, he already thinks I reject him all the time. Like, so it was self-protecting that I kept him out of all
Wow.
of this stuff.
I'm so mad at the provider that said, you just get a divorce. And like, that is horrible. I find that, ugh,
I know. It's a little shocking, right?
but it's really upsetting. Yeah.
And so, yeah, but I
Okay.
did all of that on my own because I was afraid of bringing him into it. So he could have been there with me. He could have been advocating for me. And I think he would have, but I was scared of him. And not because of anything he had done. I was not able to be vulnerable. Um, so I got the hysterectomy and my husband was so excited. So again, going through the correspondence, I have a particular email to him like sometime before. So for a period of time, like there's no activity at all. And like we're approaching the time when this comes to, and he's like
Beside
ecstatic.
himself.
This is no longer going to be painful. This is going to be amazing. It's going to be the honeymoon again. And
Yeah.
I am feeling nothing but oppressed. Like the expectations are too high. I can't possibly meet them. And so I go on the offensive.
What did you say in that email?
I told him that there was no way I would be looking forward to, as much as he was. And, I know I feel objectified and used and, I'll like, uh, everything he says to me is wrong and makes me feel like an object and not a person. And, you know, and he shouldn't be expecting a lot of enthusiasm from me because I didn't see where I would even get such enthusiasm from. It was so mean. I
You were so scared.
was. I was, and I did not tell him that. I just attacked. I
Sounds like you didn't even know you were scared, though.
couldn't have told him that. Like I said, I could sit here now and say, I think it's dripping with fear and like inadequacy. But I can only say that because I live inside of me. I'm me. From the outside, it's just me.
You have no way of knowing about this vulnerable piece that is so endearing that he didn't get to see that.
He never got to see that. So I would say, and I think he would say too, things got really bad after that between us because there wasn't an explanation anymore. You know, there was nothing. Like when it finally came that I'm going to have this big surgery, things are really not okay with me. Like, it's like, oh, click. That's what's been happening all this time. Now there's nothing, no reason
No hope.
except no hope. He had tried so hard to understand, and there was nothing to latch onto for an explanation. So at that point, he began doing what all the wives in our program do. He started Googling, like, what's wrong with her? And he had a series of psychological diagnoses for me. And he used to say, what's wrong with you? It's between your ears. It wasn't
Oh,
very nice. It made me
not nice.
mad.
Yes. Ouch, ouch, ouch.
you know, and I mean, of course, because he was hurt, so he lashed out. And he had lots of diagnoses for me, and he's an open book. So then I would get to like listen to him tell people about me. For a while, he had a theory that I was an asexual. And like,
Oh,
I went along with it because I was just like, anything to just get him to shut up about this. And like, but then he would tell everyone, like, he was friends with like a gazillion people. And so like, he'd have people over and he'd just do something like, Evie's not sexually attracted to me. It's like, there was only so much of that I could take before I was like, yeah, okay, this is not true. like,
oh,
and it's your fault.
and it's your fault. That's right. Right. That's right.
'Cause we should never forget that.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. On my side, what's going on during this time is I had some real there were some rough things in my childhood. My parents tried hard. I always felt like that. They loved me. I always felt like that. But my mom had endured a good deal of abuse growing up herself, and she didn't have a mother for the most part. Her relationship with her mom had been pretty cut off. And I think her life was overwhelming in many ways. And I was ultra competent, like always able to perform way beyond my years. And that was how I got my connection. You know, I got my connection through performance. And so, I would do lots of things and she would lean on me for lots of things. And it was inappropriate. But the worst part about it for me was that I really wanted to be mothered. And I didn't feel like that was available to me. And I didn't feel like I could communicate that vulnerability. So then I would have this weird way of being envious of my younger siblings. My younger siblings are like a good deal younger than I am. So I was like co-mom. But then I would be envious of this like child, like who is younger than me and the mothering they were getting. And I would be envious of this and I kind of seethe. And then I would feel bad because I was like, what kind of older sister am I? And as a child, I felt these things very deeply. And so, the one thing I always maintained, I think I started saying this when I was like, I don't know, 13 or so, my mother, like, she endured this awful abuse and my childhood is better than hers. And I can and then it will get better and it will just keep getting better. And like, the things that she went through, like they don't have to, they're not going to ruin any of our lives, right? And I really had a lot of hope in that. And then it was after I had my hysterectomy, but not long. I want to say like a year. My cousin died of suicide, and it just pulled the whole structure down for me. I reacted. because that kicked off almost a decade of not being able to cry. Like I couldn't, it felt weird. I felt like inhuman. I would encounter things that I ought to cry about. I would even like feel a sensation like this is a crying sensation. I couldn't cry. Like I just, so yeah, like I'd go rock climbing when I had pneumonia, I would like just keep working and all the time and I couldn't cry, and that's how far away I was from being able to share who I am. The women that came before me, that they had done a lot of damage. And so there isn't really anything much for me to do at this point except not continue the cycle. So I I developed a very impenetrable mask of productivity. I was already performance based, you know, and I got to be coldly detached from everybody and everything, including my own children.
Wow. Wow.
So
Ouch. Oh, it sounds so painful. It sounds
it,
so lonely.
it was incredibly lonely. And so my kids are growing, um, and our and one of our children just had he's such an incredible person, and like the mold doesn't fit. you know, the way of doing things that we have in our society, it just doesn't fit for him. And that was becoming more and more evident as he went along. And he was a tough child for my husband, and my husband was so frustrated at this point, as you can only imagine. I mean, like you're years and years into trying to love someone who can't receive anything. Um, and he was very frustrated, and he would be angry and he would yell. And that really hurt this kid. And so when he was 12, my husband and I just made a deal. I would be in charge of him. I would just tell him what to do. If my husband needed him to do something, he would tell me and I would tell the child. And my husband wouldn't interact with him anymore well, that pretty much ended up in my husband just didn't interact with him at all anymore. In my mind, like I would strip out the responsibility part of parenting, and then he would hang around for the fun part of parenting. But in actuality, I don't think people can fracture themselves like that, although maybe I could. That was probably not a healthy thing. So we get to teenage years, and then we move my parents in with us. So you have all these dynamics now at play, teenagers controlling in the parenting, controlling in the bedroom, fighting, and, like all of this. And so
Judging
we hit,
not with you. Yes.
exactly.
Yeah.
So then we hit the pandemic, you know, which was hard on
Oh,
people. It was very hard on my
it's
husband.
very hard on families. Yes.
Yeah. So we hit the pandemic, and I realized very early on that my profession was going to change in a way that I didn't think I was a real big fan of. So I had to come to grips with that. And in doing that, I realized a bunch of things about myself. Like, I was like, I've got to change the way I'm living. So I changed a lot of things. I started really delving into my faith. I was always very religious, but I really started like, I'm serious about this. I want to be really connected to the divine. And so I really started putting a lot of like systematic effort into that. I can be very regimented and very disciplined. My husband at the same time is starting to show some real signs that things are not going well. Um, but I ignore those because why not? I had an explanation for him. My explanation for him was that he turned into his dad. His dad is just not a fun-loving guy. So that's what happened to my husband. And when he would try to get my attention, I feel like you're being incredibly immature and I'm not engaging in this, and go on with my life. There were two incidences that should have really gotten my attention, but they really didn't. They just didn't. And they had to do with and, and I don't, blurred lines in friendships. We get to the end of high school for my oldest son, and my husband's just done. I didn't know it at the time, um, because how would I? I was really ignoring it. And but he says in that spring semester of my son's senior year of high school that he just started thinking, I don't know how long I can do this. Like, I can't. Like, how do I stay married to someone that I hate? And it was right around the end of that year that he reconnected with this one particular woman from college. And she was very receptive, and he was carrying a burden that he just couldn't carry anymore. And she was ready to receive. And he was all in. Like, it happened so quickly. And so we went to Iceland for my son's senior trip, and we spent 2 weeks out there, and he is like glued to his phone the whole time, and like, I mean, all the time, and talking about her all of the time. And like, he lost his he dropped his phone when we were in a glacier, and it just like rushed away, and he was like frantic about needing a new phone. Like, he needed a new phone right away, like, and yeah. And so while we were there, the associate attorney that I had her baby a month early. So, and then the other one was like taking the bar that summer. So I was just overloaded. I had like 3 people's work on my plate. So I was like, well, I really can't deal with this right now. So,
So alarms are going off for you, like something's up with him.
right. But I just don't have time to deal with it. So
Okay, no, it's
I
not.
was like,
It's not. It's for. I will move it on. Okay.
just put that over there. And
Okay.
when everybody comes back to work, then I'll deal with it. And then, like, I get through like July, and we're into August, and now we're about to have to take my son out to, college. And I kind of like wake up one day, and I'm like, oh, things are not going well. And again, I knew this was happening. He had like really bullied me into this anniversary dinner that year. Like, he had been insistent that we had to go out, and I was like, I don't even know why. I mean, you never shut up about this other chick. Like, why do you have to? And then we went to dinner, and he's like sitting there like talking to her the whole time, and like, so I just got really drunk, and a neighbor took me home. I know, it was terrible. But then it's August, and I realized none of my kids are sleeping at night, like, at all. And I'm like, oh, I guess I'm gonna have to deal with this. So I very reluctantly decide to go through his phone, and I did. And what I found was not pretty. It wasn't good at all. And I confront him about it. And I mean, and he's like the most unrepentant sinner that ever was. If I thought I had a hard time making him see how wrong he was before, I had no idea he could dig in so hard. Ah. So yeah, anyhow, I demand access to everything. I read all of their correspondence, and it hurts me deeply. But the thing that I saw was like, he's still there. He's not his dad after all. And I had been through enough counseling now. I could identify some emotions. Like, and I knew I really wanted to stay married. And so, but only if he could be happy with me. And so So I was like, so I hauled him off to marriage counseling because I'm very enlightened and I know exactly what you're supposed to do.
That is very true. Yeah, everyone knows that.
All right. So off we go to marriage counseling, and I just am presenting options. We can have a happy marriage and reconcile after this, or you can have like the nicest divorce in the history of nice divorces. I will teach our kids to love her. Go be with her, you know, because like I want you to be happy. I haven't seen this guy in I don't even know how long. I checked out a long time ago, so I don't know how long you've been gone, but I haven't seen this guy in a long time. And you're like genuinely happy. And I would love that for you. So, I mean, how nice am I, right?
That's so nice. I'm stupefied. I'm like, wait,
I know.
why were you saying that? Why?
Because I'm like the nicest. I told you I was charming.
It's
So
true.
marriage
Well, okay.
the marriage counselor was also like, I mean, full marks for enlightenment, Evie, right? And my husband was like, yeah, no. It's like he was not willing to play by my rules at all, like even a little bit. So then that's when, you know, so now I don't know what to do. Like,
And
so what am I supposed to do with that?
well, I don't know. You only want to stay married if he'll be happy with you. What happened?
And he tells me I'll never financially recover from a divorce. I'm like, that's the meanest thing. I mean,
It's
clearly
so
you're the
practical.
bad guy.
Yeah. 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 And that's what this is his reasoning for not getting divorced.
Yeah, and it was a little more nuanced, I think, if I were to explain it. At the time, it was like, why should I? Why should I suffer a divorce when you're the one who just like emotionally vacated this marriage a long time ago?
Whoa. Who said that?
He didn't. It would have been a little, I don't know that I would have taken it. And if he had said it like that, that's what I would say with his reasoning now from this
Okay, got
vantage point.
from your vantage point. Yeah.
And I don't think I'm wrong about that. But I think also there was more nuance there that he wasn't articulating. Like he just didn't want that
That
for
wasn't what he
us.
really wanted.
But
Yeah.
he did want to be alive, you know, and he hadn't been because I had killed us, you know.
It's harsh, but that's how you see it. You you killed us, you're saying.
I
I killed
did.
her.
I did. I did that by just being so removed and hopeless, you know.
It's all your fault?
I would put more of the fault on me than I would on him. I don't know if
51%.
at least I'd probably put it up higher. And that's not to say that what he was doing was right.
No.
It's to say that when the keeper of the relationship refuses to keep it, how's anyone else supposed to do it?
I don't know, but it just seems too harsh. He's broken his vows. He's carrying on with the other woman. He's in love with her. He's happy. He's having a great time. You offered a divorce, a nice divorce. Surely this is his fault.
It really felt like it at the time. It did. It's taken a lot to get to where I'm like, no, I see it in a very different light because there's only one keeper of the relationship, and that's the woman. You know, like it's like if I were like mad at him for not having more kids after I had a hysterectomy. You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
he couldn't.
Oh. Yeah, he couldn't. That's true. Okay. Well, all right. So what happens?
Well, I become very ill behaved because what else was I going to do?
Yeah. Yeah. So
So
now the hurt is there. You're feeling it.
So yeah, and I mean, obviously I'm justified this time because I
Right.
mean,
Right.
this guy is seriously in the wrong.
Anybody would
Um,
tell you. Yes.
so it ends up with an ultimatum and he decides he's going to move out. And I'm like, great. How are you going to tell the kids? Cause I'm not telling them because this isn't my fault. And he just looks at me and he's like, I have no idea how I could tell the kids. And he's like, well, our son is coming home for the first time from college. Why don't we just put this all on hold? Because this is like now fast forward to like Thanksgiving. And he's like, okay, we'll just have a happy Christmas and you can't bring up anything and you can't argue with me about anything at all. Like we can have no disagreements and I will not talk to her. Okay, great. He sends me all their correspondence. I'm supposed to keep it. And I start being the go between them. Like all communication goes through me because we're talking about some seriously unskilled behavior.
But for torturous too.
I mean, this is ridiculous, but this is what makes sense to me at the time.
Okay.
So we get through Christmas and just nothing's going well. And our other son, is like going through bad times. And I mean, and our daughter is self-harming and like nothing is going well. My parents and I got into like several blowout fights that I time for when my husband's not around so that he won't have to be stressed out by it. Um, just nothing is going well. But we have a peaceful Christmas, and we get through to the end. We had set a date when we were gonna like revisit this conversation, and we get to that date, and he's like, "Well, I'm okay with this. Like, I can live like this." And I'm like, okay. So we got through some little more time. And then he starts complaining. He had us do this paired app where you like answer these questions with each other every day. And it hurt my feelings when he wouldn't do it. And he said it was like such a hassle for him, even though it was his idea. And one of the questions one day was like, my partner is supportive of my friendships. And he puts in there, except for, and names her. I'm like, that was our friendship.
Yeah. Yeah.
So in a rage, I delete all of their correspondence and then I sent her the meanest Dear John letter that could possibly be, where I tell her exactly what I think of her and her morality and everything else. So done.
Yeah.
I felt much better.
Yeah. They're in her place. Yeah.
But, and I'm like, cool, we're going to be fine now. And so, but we weren't fine. And so so yeah, we tried. I mean, he tried so hard. He really tried so hard. He really tried. But I mean, he had a lot of like, at this point, I would say very well-deserved resentment for me. And he just couldn't come back from so much. So I think it got to be about April and we had a fight, like a big fight. We hadn't had one of those now since, I had decided to be really ill behaved about her. And we have a fight about tree sap on one of the cars. And I'm just like, and then he goes up on a business trip. When he comes back, he tells me about how like he met these psychologists who were married on a plane. They were on the plane for 1 hour together and they were able to discern immediately that he was in the most unhappy marriage and he just couldn't figure out how he's ever going to be happy again. And I'm just like, and that same, we're like on a date when he's telling me these things. And then my son calls and he tells me, he's going to be gone for a while. He had been doing this since we had our breakdown. He would just disappear. And so, when he was using substances and it was so bad. And so, so I'm like, what is wrong with you? Can't you, like, you're killing us with your like refusal to get over her, to like get back to me. Like, why did you stay? And like, he's got nothing to say to me except that he thinks I probably did a pretty bad job of raising our son. So I go home and I start Googling, like, what do you do if your husband will never love you again? And so you come up. And I thought you were a nut. So I like got your book on Kindle because I didn't want him to know anything, and I read through it really fast. And then I read through your workbook, and then I read all your blog posts, and then I started listening to all your podcasts. And I was like, then I went looking for, there's got to be like an I Hate Laura Doyle club, right? Like it's got to be out there. Like all her disillusioned former followers, banded together on the internet to tell me she really is a nut. There's no way this will work.
Don't waste your time. Yeah.
Right. But I couldn't find them. So if they do exist, I don't know where they are, but I couldn't find them. And so I was like, oh, scream. Like, I'll go ahead and do some of this. So the very first thing I did was I apologized to him for destroying all of their correspondence, for chasing her off. And I returned, she had painted a really beautiful portrait of him, and I had confiscated it because it was hanging in our bedroom, and I didn't. Yeah, but I didn't destroy it. I just took it away. And so I gave it back to him. And I decided I'm gonna apologize and do a self-fulfilling prophecy all in one. So I gave it back to him, and I'm like, I know that you always wanted to take care of me. Now that felt like an out and out lie. Because he never took care of me. But I could see fairly quickly into reading your book that he didn't take care of me because I never let him take care of me, ever. And so I was like, so I apologize for being so disrespectful to you when I deleted all your correspondence when I said I wouldn't. And when I gave you an ultimatum about getting her out of your life, and when I confiscated this portrait. And 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 you know what? He did not say, wow, it's about time, Evie, or I forgive you, my darling wife. He just looked at me and he was like, so what's with this trap? He thought I was really
Not getting
another
a bad
bitch.
response from doing exactly what I suggest, right? It does not work. Does not work. Does
So
not
he
go.
goes, well, what if I hang this portrait in our bedroom so you have to look at it every day and it will hurt you? And I was like, so I looked at him and I was like, I would think that that's your best, that's what you think is best for us. And I had timed this apology so that I could leave immediately. Like I had to get to work. And he just looked at me, and I looked it back at him and was like, I have to leave. So I left. But I've never seen it since. And things started to change pretty quick after that. He never said I forgive you. He never said thank you for that apology. Um, but like stuff started changing, and he stopped being so defensive. I think I gave a few more apologies for all of the stuff that I had done during our breakdown. And yeah.
How did he
And from
respond to
there,
those? Like, how did he respond to those apologies? Did you
no,
ever get a good response? No?
not until much more recently. So I've been in your skills since April. It's right at the beginning of April. And no, he's only more recently started, acknowledging the apologies or saying thank you or I forgive you. But for a long time, no, he was either silent. Well, he was only super negative those first couple of times. And because he didn't respond to the next apology well either. That then he stopped being negative and he just started being quiet. But
Okay.
I mean, I had used apologies as kind of a weapon. So there were some reasons he wasn't very gracious.
Okay. Was it discouraging though? Weren't you thinking like, here I've gone over this huge hump to become humble and accountable, and I've apologized to you, and he's responding so badly? Like,
Yeah, but not as discouraging as where I was living, Like I had chased off this woman so thoroughly, and she still haunted my entire life. That was like way more discouraging.
yeah. So you actually felt some hope.
I really did. I started feeling a lot of hope. And so I think sometime right. So, I do this through April, and then you ran a Mother's Day special. So I did that. And then I loved the idea of relinquishing those finances. So I did that real quick. I know that's one of your graduate level ones, but it was like, I'm
You're a
done.
Japan
I hate
student.
this.
Yeah.
Well, I'll do that one way before self care.
Yep.
So, and then, then I started getting on the group coaching calls, and I think it was Coach Janit who talked me through just making space in my day, and like that was self-care. And then I ran this whole experiment during June where I prioritized just time. And then I had more billing hours that month than I had had in the last 2 months. And I was like, oh my gosh, it is magic. You do have more time. I mean, if you were really wanting to sell me on something, getting me more billable hours was definitely the way to do it.
Right to your heart. Okay, good. Good.
So yeah, so I just started working through these fields. Well, in the meantime, our son is really going downhill, and some massive mental health crisis. And he ends up in the hospital twice over the summer. So you couldn't have come at a better time, because all of a sudden my husband starts thinking that I'm pretty awesome again. And he starts telling people that I'm pretty awesome again. And he starts bringing me flowers and getting me gifts. He got me this watch for our anniversary, and he plans trips for us. He packed me, because I was like, he like planned the trip, and then he packed all my stuff. And yeah, and he's been doing that ever since too, which was really, really cute. And yeah, I mean, he just couldn't like, okay, so he wasn't saying, I forgive you, but he was like acting, and my friends started telling me, oh my gosh, he like has you on such a pedestal again. Like I haven't seen you up there in a while. Um, and yeah, so things are so much better, which
That must have felt amazing to be back on his pedestal.
well, I didn't have a lot of time to bask in it because we had this other thing going on with my
Yeah.
son. The big paramount moment for that was I had early on I think I was rewatching one of your Live with Laura's where you had workshopped, visiting your future self. And that was really magical. And so my vision was I'm going to be a world traveler because I love traveling. And so my sister had like, because everything you do is magic. Like she hadn't talked to me in over a year. And so she called me, of course, like I think I started doing your skills and 2 weeks later she called me. So,
I nudged her. I'm like,
and
Kelly.
you did. You
Yeah.
did.
Yeah.
I mean, so then she and I had planned a trip to Rome. Well, the night before I was going to Rome, I actually got coaching from, I believe it's Coach Diane, but I can't remember specifically now. Anyhow, about leaving, because my son was in such a bad place and he had just gotten out of the hospital again. And I got all this coaching and I was like, can definitely trust my husband with this. And so then I go home and my son's counselor calls me and tells me there's no way he lives through the weekend. Right, right. Well, like, what was I supposed to do with that? And
I
I asked her, what am I supposed to do with this? She had nothing to give me. So I went home to my son and I was like, counselor called me, like, and he was like, I just told him, like, I've already done a funeral for one of my children and I don't want to do it again. And he was like, I will try. And that's as good as I can do for you. And he's like, but I think you should go. And so I went and I cried the whole day there. Just bawled. It was not magnetic, Laura, because there was a guy sitting right next to me and all he did was just scrunch over away. You know what I mean?
so it's very tough for you. And anyway,
So I don't care what you say about vulnerability. Sometimes it's not magnetic. And yeah.
yeah.
But it was this massive release of control, and massive trusting of my husband. With your coaches, and this one was with Coach Darlene, who almost has been like a midwife for this part of my journey. And I realized like that original thing, where I wanted to be mothered, where I wanted to have needs. And I felt so envious of people who were getting their needs addressed. That's really how I felt about this woman. I wasn't really her. it wasn't really my husband. It was really this injury and me, and an envy of the receptivity that she had, and my inability to reach my own receptivity. And so Coach Darlene put me on a receiving detective challenge. And I was supposed to like keep track of all the things that I could receive. And like that was explosive. My world just like opened up. Like crazy opened up, Laura. Like I had been kind of toying with this idea of expanding my business. And then the like person that I was going to approach about this approached me. like, and like these other opportunities for the international travel came up. And so then, you invited me in your videos to become a coach. And I thought about that and I really wanted it. And so I told my husband about it. And, he's getting knocked for a loop because he's never done our finances. So he didn't realize how the tax year goes. And he had just sat through our first accountant meeting, and it was a heavy meeting. And he said yes to coaching. And yeah, I mean, it's just gone on and on, So my husband was inspired. So he does like so much of the house stuff now. So he put himself in charge of Christmas cards this year, and he wanted to write a long Christmas letter about joy and hope, and how much joy and hope he has now. And he
Wow.
wanted to talk about you. And I was like, I don't know if I want to talk about Laura Doyle in my Christmas letter. No offense.
So vulnerable. Sure.
Yeah. But yeah, no, I got some coaching around that, realized, I'm really being invited to share my stories. And this has been always a thing for me. Like, why do I feel alone and unseen and unmothered and uncared for, Because I don't let myself be out there. I don't let myself have those needs show.
Wow. Amazing. Evie, this is incredible. It's so moving. And it brings me great joy to get to, I want to say, like, take your story, like the fact that you have been craving this mothering, to be able to share these stories, and that you're sharing it in such a big, vulnerable way today is so inspiring, so magical, so moving. And I do have a few more questions. Like, I want to know what happened with the physical intimacy. Can I ask about that?
It's much better. I always thought in my mind somewhere back there, I'm like, this should be fun and light.
And
Yeah.
now it is.
Yeah. It's fun and light and connecting,
Did you receive?
I can receive now. And that was hard. That's hard to get to, but I can. And it's good, and it's too bad that I couldn't have received even all the way back to 17. It's too bad that it's taken this long to be able to receive what she was always trying to get. In fact, the only time it really bothers me is when I'm hungry, which is the weirdest thing. I don't know why I don't just crave chocolate chips, but every once in a while I will feel very strongly that this is not quite right. And then I eat something,
Then you have a
to get that.
sandwich. Okay.
And
Yeah.
then I feel better. And I'm like, I don't know why I cared. But
Wow. That is
uh,
some extraordinary self-awareness for someone who didn't even know she used to have, when she had pneumonia in the past. Now you're aware, like, oh, I'm having maybe some needless emotional turmoil about this other woman. I'm hungry.
right.
Is that hard?
It's a little ridiculous, but yes, that is correct. I started like tracking my calories because I got really sick. Like it was like I hit, a wall of stress, and my immune system was down, and I was having a really hard time coming back from that illness. And so I started like reading about how maybe, women in my age group will sometimes kind of like stop eating enough calories, especially because I like to be really active. And so I started tracking them, but I didn't want to pay for, back in the day I had done Noom. I don't want to pay for that anymore. So I like threw it into ChatGPT, and ChatGPT is like it's a very nice, interaction. I
Yes.
was like, good for you for taking charge of your life, and so then I'd be like, you're seriously low on calories. You should really consider eating something. And I'd be like, wow, I did not realize I was seriously low. And then I would start eating, and then like that would go away, the net.
Gotcha.
And then I
Gotcha.
was like,
It does.
Evie, like maybe one day you'll be able to like plug into your stomach. And you want to think that he's wrong just to realize that you need a sandwich.
Yeah.
I'm a work
Wow.
in progress.
Wow. I mean, what a great insight, though. It's like there's a piece of self care that was going unattended to in a way, and
Yeah.
and it's connected directly to this angst that you would feel about this other woman. I mean, what a great insight! It's amazing. So, and what would you? And what's your marriage like right now? Like, what's it like?
Yeah, I mean, like it's what it was supposed to be. I mean, it's what it was always supposed to be. He was right. He was always the right one for me. And he's wonderful, you know. I mean, he's a person. He has his things, right? But not to be involved in everything that's going on with him. Right now he's like really stressed out about work, but like I don't have to rescue him from that. And he's so supportive. I mean, he can't like. He told me this morning he's getting me ground school for Christmas because I've been talking about like becoming a pilot. Because I mean, why not?
Why not? If that's your desire, let's
Like
pick you out from your I want writing.
that's what you said. Yeah,
Wow.
it's
Wow.
it's like crazy.
So he adores you. And do you ever feel resentful about all his transgressions?
It doesn't really feel like no, I'm a little sad that I left him out in the cold like that. I see it in my kids too. Like I've had to apologize to my kids for doing the same thing, for just being unavailable. Um, I'm the wife and the mother in this relationship, you know? Like it's the same as if I had just left.
That is, it's hard. It's sad. That's an extreme level of accountability. It sounds to me. Is that
Oh, I didn't tell you. I apologized to her. I apologized to her for reading all their
to the
correspondence.
other
Yes, I
woman?
did.
You
I did.
apologized to her?
I did. I owed her an apology. I was really horrible.
What?
Well, it wasn't my favorite. I didn't like it, but
No.
I had to do it because I was really wrong.
Do you
And
recommend it? Do you recommend this?
I mean, yes, because like I want to be me, right? I want to be myself. Like you don't apologize for another person. You apologize for yourself. Like that wasn't right. And nobody else's wrong could make my wrongs right. And so if I'm going to be me, then I want to be all the way me.
So this is the way to, yeah, to be your best self is to take accountability in, I mean, I think most people would say is an extraordinary way. Like, I mean, you can't even get to the place where you say, well, I was acting that way because she was, right? Like you're not having that.
No, I mean, you know when you're wrong.
Oh, I guess you do. I guess you do. All right. So what is your tip for somebody who is where you were, where I don't even know where to go back to, right? There was a lot of years of distant, disconnected marriage.
Mhm.
Then there was your husband has another woman, and your children are not thriving. I guess I would say they weren't for a while, and she wants what you have now, where um, like she can go to Rome, and your husband stepped in and took care of the crisis with your son, and and he's a all yes for you becoming a coach, even though you're a litigator. You already have a career, right? So,
Right.
and it's a pretty sizable investment to become a relationship coach, but he's all about it, and he just adores you, and you feel that. You feel doted on, and you feel, um, I mean, it's not like that mothered piece. I kind of feel like you're getting that now too. Maybe it's not so much about your marriage, but this is what's come out of you practicing intimacy skills so intently is kind of getting the nurturing piece that you always wanted, and it's by doing this by being vulnerable.
Yeah.
Okay, so anyway, so somebody wants what you have. They really want that, and
Yeah.
what's your best tip?
So I think, okay, so obviously everybody says, you got to point them in the direction of Laura Doyle, and that's right. so, so that's a given. Beyond that, I would say that love is trustworthy, you know. Um, I didn't think it was, you know, for a long time. I was really injured in my receptivity. Then I didn't think that I could trust my husband's love for me. I thought there was some self-seeking in it. And and that wasn't it it was not true in the way that I interpreted it, because I interpreted it as like the self-seeking means I have to protect me. I have to keep what's mine. I have to hold my ground. And that was nothing but injurious to us and to him. And if I had let that down and let him love me, he would have had his clumsy moments. He's just a man, right? But he could have and has shown that he could learn to love me. And he always wanted to, but I didn't trust it at all. So I think that my tip would be you can really trust that this person wants to love you. And you can, all the self protection, it doesn't result in less hurt. It's just different hurt. And maybe hurt that's so hurtful that it's destructive. Whereas the hurt by somebody who's trying to love you and maybe being clumsy at times, that's not devastating. Mm. So love can be trusted.
Hmm. Wow, it's beautiful. I love that. What would you say to Evie if you could go back in time? Tell her what you know.
I would love to go all the way back to 17 and just let myself be a kid who wanted to be loved by her boyfriend, without having to take in all the calculations and all the performance and all the pressure. I wish I could just go all the way back to there, because it was beautiful to be loved like that. It was just so scary. It was so scary. And I wish I could have known, like, it's all right to be loved.
Yeah, would have been really, yeah, it would have been really wonderful to get to experience that.
It would have been a
And
very different story.
it would, yeah, we wouldn't be talking right now, I'm sure, but it's, I don't know, I just hear so much redemption that you feel that now.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, well, I have to congratulate you, Evie. Fig. My best wife award. You deeply deserve it. You have earned this incredible award because of your amazing accountability, determination, fearlessness, yeah, very courageous, vulnerability, your receptivity. Um, your story is like just riveting. It's I feel so connected to you, and I know that you're saving marriages today, and by by telling this story, and also I also see how you're saving Evie and you're saving your family, and there's nothing I admire more. Congratulations.
Thank you. I received that.
Oh, I love that.
It'll go in my journal today.
Yes, girl, in your receiving journal. Oh, well done. This has been so wonderful. I'm so grateful. I'm so grateful to you.
I'm very grateful to you. Very grateful. Thank you for for being so courageous about this and letting people, think that maybe you're a nut. And yeah, I apologize for that. You've made a complete convert. I think you're wonderful. And I did admit that I was becoming a relationship coach in the Christmas letter.
So now everyone knows. It's
Now
out.
everybody knows it's out. I'm out. And I'm
You're
happy to be so. Thank you.
Yeah. Oh, it's awesome. Thank you so much, Evie. If you related to Evie, if you're capable, responsible, and quietly exhausted, the Empowered Wife book has helped hundreds of thousands of women bring warmth and closeness back into their marriages without awkward talks or pressure. It's a place to stop overfunctioning and get your energy back and feel truly known by the people who matter most. You'll find the link to the first chapter of The Empowered Wife that you can read for free in the show notes.